Again, it's also important, I think Daryl brought this up in a committee meeting last night, the bond issue language. This is not a levy, this is a bond. So it's revenue generated from the bond issue can only be utilized for the improvement and renovation of school facilities as outlined in the ballot language. Revenue from this issue cannot be used for operating expenses, salaries, or benefits. You can't mix and match those funds. There are three different levies, I guess. Levies or bonds. There's bond issue, PI, permanent improvement, and levy, or operating. This money that we're asking for is for a building, period. You cannot mix and match those funds. It is illegal. It's against Ohio statute. Here's what the language is going to look like. This is actually going to be issue number 9. This is issue number 9 on the ballot in November, and this is what it will read. Again, I'm not going to read this entire thing to you, but I would like to point out one thing. I mean, you got to be prepared for what you're going to see. It's the same idea of giving the student a standardized test to at least understand the format before you assess that student on them. You got to let people know what they're going to vote on. This is what the language will read. It's going to construct, furnish, equip a new middle school, and it will be over a maximum of 37 years. In talking with the underwriters and talking with the bond financiers, I guess the underwriters, they believe and they have a plan to pay that off in 30 years, not 37. They just write that because they're allowed to. And this is a statute that's taken right out of a book about this big, that they don't have an option on any of the language. You just have to slap it in on the ballot. But that's not bad language, really. And obviously, we know which to check, right? We want to check that one. This is the timeline. And I think somebody pointed out that this is actually wrong. I think a couple people, and we just haven't made the adjustment. Keystone High School, it started in 2001 with master facilities. The high school opened in actually 2006, I believe, not 2007. We've had a community presentation in the middle school gym in August. We just had a committee meeting at the high school last night. September 18th, absentee voting begins. October 4th is the last day to register. October 30th, last day to submit absentee. November 2nd is on the ballot. November 3rd, we begin programming and designing facility. January 4th through June 6th, we educate people on homestead exemptions and other things they can do to help themselves with taxes. In August 2012, we would hope to move into a new middle school. Now, I just want to say one thing about that date. I like the architect's aggressive stance with that, and it's possible because we're doing a lot of planning now, a lot of the paperwork and PORs and things now. If that's not possible and it backs up, think about the situation that we're in. Kids won't be displaced. They'll still be in middle school learning. It's not like we have to put them in modules or put them out under tents in a field while they tear down the middle school and build a new one. They still have a middle school. That's a luxury that a lot of districts don't have. So if that timeline gets backed up to January or backed up to, we're not going to move in the middle of the year in May, but if it gets backed up to August of 2013, it's okay. It's not optimal, but it's okay. And again, 2012 is definitely possible. Summary, what does it all mean? It means that we're continuing the Keystone Master Facility Plan with Phase 2. Phase 2 is a 6th grade middle school and it won't cost any additional tax dollars. Phase 3 is a PK5 elementary school, and that will be in 4 to 5 years depending on legislation that may help us, and that will not cost any additional dollars. So what does that mean? It means one yes vote this November means 2 new buildings for no additional cost. That does not come around often. It just doesn't happen often. And again, just to clarify, I think I put this, when we were putting this together, I think I put this on every slide, and then I went back and said maybe that's a little much, and put it on only maybe every other slide. It allows the district to build 2 new buildings for no additional cost. What the community is currently paying, they will continue to pay. And we will build 2 new buildings. It's a centralized location of school facilities, those that are going to Penfield for baseball and all over the. It's a centralized location. Master facilities plan puts everything on one campus. New construction won't disrupt the education process, and we mentioned that. Up-to-date technology for staff and students, sustainable, energy-efficient buildings. There's a direct positive effect for stimulating the local economy. We would do whatever we can to work with local vendors. When you set up bids, you can do certain things where you have preferred status for local vendors, and we would obviously do that. The district was rated excellent in 2009 and 2010 after design and occupancy of new Keystone High School, and we're excellent again. Again, you cannot overstate the importance of that in the just thank you for the hard work with that, because that's a tough thing to do. And lastly, a lot of times when you're in these and you're talking about asking people for money, you hear, I'm on a fixed income, I can't afford new costs. This is fixed cost. We're not asking anybody to pay more. We're just asking you to continue to pay what you're paying. So it's a fixed cost and fixed income. This was a picture, and just so you know, this person does not really exist. It's just because sometimes you get, well, I didn't want my student, I didn't want my kid up on that. That's what you can't do. So what we did is we took somebody's, and this is kind of creepy really, we took somebody's body, because there was actually a student on the rock, so it is a real picture. But then we put somebody else's face on there just to avoid any potential headaches of somebody being upset. I don't know why anybody would be upset, but again, these are touchy things, and we just wanted to do the right thing. Some questions and answers, and these are just questions that we've heard, and we want to answer. Why do we need to do anything with any of the buildings? Several reasons, but the most important are these. There's going to be a need within the next 3 to 5 years to sink considerable money into the elementary and middle school buildings. It's just a fact of life. They're old buildings. That money is going to have to come from somewhere. If we can't pass that money in a bond issue, it's going to have to come from either local dollars, all 100% local dollars, or it's going to have to come from the general fund. If it comes from the general fund, it's going to speed up the process of needing to go back for operating money. So this is the best case scenario. The OSSC is not going to be around forever. It's a good organization. It gets beat up a lot politically, but it's a good organization. Their intent is to help every Ohio school, but it's not an infinite supply of money. So you have to take advantage of these things while you can. The committee was chosen with a volunteer group of people that were contacted by Dr. Freed's office. The Master Facilities Plan group has kind of evolved from there, and they stayed in the loop, and they are the ones who made the recommendation for the Master Facilities Plan. Why was the option chosen? Because it's a continuation of the Master Facilities Plan adopted in 2003. We've completed phase 1. This is phase 2. By getting phase 2 approved, we can do phase 3. If this bond issue does not pass in November, what will it cost? And here's some highlights that I talked about the 0% bond. The Federal Stimulus Act created incentives for districts that are set to expire December 31st. Some of those incentives include Build America bonds, which the federal government subsidizes the school district's interest expense, interest-free Q-Scoobies, which are federal stimulus funds that allow districts to borrow construction funds with little to zero interest. Low construction costs are available today. With all these variables, we can't really tell you how much it will cost. We can just tell you that if we wait until tomorrow versus today, it's going to cost more. Every day that we wait, it costs more money. This is just an example of what you're able to borrow, the rates you're able to borrow bonds at right now. These are interest rates. This is 1980. This is 1982. And you see currently where we're at. It's record lows to borrow now. So to be able to get an issue like this passed with a low interest rate is a phenomenal opportunity because the interest rates are that low. It's like borrowing on a car. You probably didn't want to borrow money for a car in '81. I think I was 12 then, so I wouldn't have done it at that point in time, but if anybody was 18 and wanted that Camaro, probably not a good time. Now, a good time. When we build an elementary school, we would hope to, the OSSC right now is saying within 4 to 5 years. That there's recent legislation that's being adopted and banned around Columbus as always. That could be sooner. Once we have built the middle school, we will again met our obligation, and we can put that up when our turn comes up in the cycle, and we don't even have to most likely take that to voters. Why should I support the school when I have no school-aged children? And I think we all understand this. A strong school system means a stronger, more prosperous community. Businesses and residents look at school systems prior to locating, and a strong school system means increased property values for everybody. It also means that there's lessens the threat of tax erosion of the tax base, and a source of community pride. And again, this is a fixed cost for fixed income. Welcome back. Have a great year. And if you have any questions, please ask now. Because I know you're all very intelligent people. You're educators. You understand this more. You understand this more than most community members. So if you're thinking it and you have the question, ask. I will say one thing. There was some, after the community presentation, there was a question about room assignments or the number of rooms. Don't worry about that at this point in time. And the reason why is that what the OSFC does is they take the amount of square footage. It's 52,850 square feet. And then they put together an original POR, which is a program of requirements. And they say, this is what it could look like. 12 classrooms with this, with this, with this. Get away from the number, because what you do is you take that square footage, and then after meeting with staff, getting input from staff and the construction managers, you develop what you need, and you put the right number of rooms in that you need to the project. So I know there were some questions, some consternation after that original meeting, and I just say to you, don't worry about that now, because it's not really relevant. It will become what it becomes after we meet with groups to develop that square footage use.